Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a simple piece of advice that could change the trajectory of your life. Never tell people what you do. Now that sounds strange, doesn't it? We live in a world where everyone wants to announce everything. Social media has trained us to broadcast our goals, our plans, our ambitions. We want applause before the work is done. We want recognition before the result appears. But let me tell you something powerful. Talk is cheap. Results are priceless. When you constantly tell people what you're going to do, you trade performance for approval. And approval is a poor substitute for achievement. You see, there are two types of people in the world, those who talk about what they're going to do, and those who quietly go to work. The first group gets attention. The second group gets results. And results will always make more noise than words. When you announce your plans too early, something subtle happens. Your mind begins to enjoy the praise as if the goal has already been achieved. Someone says, "Wow, that's amazing. You're starting a business." And your brain rewards you. It feels good. But you haven't done the hard part yet. You've mistaken intention for accomplishment. And that is a dangerous mistake. If you want to be powerful, learn to move in silence. Let your discipline speak. Let your habits speak. Let your bank account speak. Let your results speak. There's a reason farmers don't dig up seeds every day to see if they're growing. They plant, they water, they protect, and they wait. Imagine planting a seed and then running around the neighborhood saying, "Look, I planted a seed. It's going to be a big tree." Nobody cares about the seed. They care about the fruit. And the fruit only comes from patience and quiet work. Now, I'm not saying you should never communicate your vision to anyone. There is power in mentorship. There is power in partnership. There is power in accountability. But there is weakness in broadcasting your plans to people who don't understand your journey. When you tell small-minded people your big goals, they don't clap. They criticize. They project their fears onto you. They measure your ambition by their limitations. And if you are not strong enough, their doubt can infect your belief. Guard your vision. A goal is like a flame. In the beginning, it's small, fragile, vulnerable to the wind of criticism and negativity. If you expose it too early, it can be blown out. But if you protect it, feed it, nurture it, it becomes a fire no storm can extinguish. Successful people understand timing. They don't announce. They demonstrate. They don't declare. They deliver. They don't promise. They produce. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the most successful individuals often surprise people? One day, seemingly out of nowhere, they launch something incredible. They buy the building. They publish the book. They build the company. People say, "Wow, where did that come from?" It came from years of silent discipline. It came from mornings when nobody was watching. It came from nights when nobody was clapping. It came from sacrifices nobody applauded. That is the power of quiet consistency. There is also another reason to stop telling people what you do. When you talk too much about your plans, you create pressure. Now you feel like you have to perform for others instead of performing for yourself. Your motivation shifts from internal pride to external validation. And external validation is unreliable. Some days they cheer. Some days they criticize. Some days they ignore you completely. If your drive depends on them, your progress will be inconsistent. But if your drive comes from within, from your standards, your discipline, your values, then nothing can stop you. You don't need to announce your grind. You don't need to advertise your effort. You don't need to convince anyone. Your life will be your RA summe. Here's something else. Silence builds mystery. Mystery builds respect. Respect builds influence. When you are constantly talking about yourself, people tune you out. But when you move strategically and speak selectively, people lean in. They become curious. Curiosity is more powerful than self-promotion. Let your improvement surprise people. Let your growth shock them. Let your results introduce you. Because at the end of the day, success is not something you explain. It's something you display. And understand this clearly. Most people quit when you announce a goal publicly, and then you fail to follow through. Your credibility suffers. But when you work privately, you have room to fail, adjust, improve, and grow without public embarrassment. Silence gives you space to evolve, and evolution requires privacy. The caterpillar does not hold a press conference before entering the cocoon. Transformation happens in isolation. If you want to transform your finances, your health, your mindset, you may need a season of silence. A season where you say less and do more. A season where you listen more and speak less. A season where you build instead of broadcast. Now let me leave you with this thought. The world does not reward announcements. The world rewards value. So instead of telling people what you do, become so good they can't ignore what you've done. Instead of explaining your ambition, prove it. Instead of describing your future, build it. Work in silence. Refine your craft, sharpen your skills, strengthen your discipline. And one day when the results show up, you won't need to say a word, because success will speak for you. One of the greatest temptations in life is to talk about what we're going to do instead of actually doing it. It feels productive. It sounds impressive. It creates excitement. But there is a world of difference between motion and progress, between conversation and construction. You can talk about building a house for years and never lay a single brick. The discipline that separates the average from the exceptional is simple: replace talk with action. Now, I'm not against enthusiasm. I'm not against vision. I'm not against sharing ideas in the right setting. But there's a danger when words become a substitute for work. When you begin to enjoy describing your future more than designing it, you're in trouble. Talking is easy. Action is demanding. Talking costs nothing. Action requires sacrifice. Talking creates an image. Action creates results. And results are the only things that truly change your life. There is something psychological that happens when you announce your plans. When you tell people, I'm starting a business, or I'm going to transform my health, you receive encouragement, you receive praise, you receive attention. And for a moment, it feels like success, but you haven't earned it yet. The mind can be tricked into feeling accomplished just because it declared an intention. That feeling reduces urgency. It softens discipline. It whispers, you're already on your way, when in fact you haven't taken the first real step. The world does not reward intention. It rewards execution. You don't get paid for saying you're going to work hard. You get paid for the value you produce. You don't get healthy by announcing a diet. You get healthy by changing what's on your plate every single day. You don't become skilled by telling people you're practicing. You become skilled by practicing when nobody is watching. Action is the bridge between desire and accomplishment. Without action, ambition is just entertainment. I've met many people with brilliant plans, incredible ideas, detailed strategies. They can explain exactly what they're going to do over the next 5 years. But explanation without execution is frustration waiting to happen. What builds confidence is not what you say. It's what you do repeatedly. Each time you follow through on a small commitment, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Each time you replace a promise with performance, your self-respect grows, and self-respect is a powerful fuel. If you want to feel strong, keep promises to yourself. If you want to feel capable, complete what you start. If you want to feel unstoppable, build a record of action. The problem with too much talking is that it divides your energy. Instead of concentrating fully on the task, part of your energy goes into maintaining the image you've created. You start worrying about what people think. You feel pressure to show progress before it's real. And that pressure can distort your focus. Quiet action eliminates that distraction. When you work in silence, your energy is directed toward improvement, not impression. There is also a deeper principle here. Discipline thrives in privacy. When you decide to wake up early, study harder, practice longer, or invest smarter, those decisions don't need applause. They need consistency. Consistency is boring to talk about, but powerful to practice. It's not glamorous to repeat the same disciplined habits day after day. It's not exciting to skip entertainment in order to study. It's not dramatic to save money instead of spending it. But those small, repeated actions create extraordinary outcomes over time. Success is rarely dramatic. It is usually methodical. People often look for a breakthrough moment, a big announcement, a public declaration that changes everything. But most breakthroughs are the result of hundreds of quiet actions that nobody noticed. Think of a sculptor shaping a masterpiece. The statue doesn't appear in one dramatic swing of the hammer. It appears after thousands of small, precise strikes. Each strike may seem insignificant, but together they reveal greatness. Your habits are those strikes, and habits are built through action, not conversation. When you feel the urge to announce your next big move, pause. Ask yourself, would I rather talk about this or accomplish it? Would I rather receive applause now or admiration later? Would I rather impress people with my plans or inspire them with my results? There's a maturity that comes when you realize you don't need to tell everyone what you're doing. You don't need to explain your grind. You don't need to narrate your journey. You simply need to show up and do the work. Over time, action builds evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum. And momentum builds extraordinary results. And here's the beauty of it: when you finally do speak, your words carry weight because they are backed by experience, backed by discipline, backed by proof. Anyone can talk about success. Few can demonstrate it. Anyone can describe ambition. Few can endure the process. Anyone can make promises. Few can produce performance. Replace talk with action, and you'll separate yourself from the crowd without ever needing to announce it. There is dignity in quiet effort. There is power in focused work. There is pride in private discipline. Let others debate their goals. Let others broadcast their dreams. You make a decision to build. Let your calendar reflect your commitment. Let your bank account reflect your discipline. Let your health reflect your habits. Let your results reflect your effort. Because in the end, life does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you do. And when your actions become louder than your words, you will no longer need to tell people what you're planning. They will be watching what you're accomplishing. One of the most powerful disciplines you can ever develop is the discipline of protecting your vision. Not everything in your life needs an audience. Not every dream needs a microphone. And not every goal needs approval. When an idea first comes to you, it is fragile. It is exciting, yes. It is inspiring, absolutely. But it is also delicate. It hasn't yet been tested by difficulty. It hasn't yet been strengthened by effort. It's like a small flame. And if you expose that flame to strong winds too early, it can be blown out. Many people lose their dreams not because a dream was impossible, but because it was exposed too soon. You must understand something about human nature. Most people evaluate your future based on your past. They look at who you were yesterday and decide what you can become tomorrow. If you tell them you're going to build a business, they measure that statement against your current bank account. If you say you're going to get in the best shape of your life, they compare it to your current habits. If you say you're going to change everything, they look at your history of starting and stopping. And if you are not strong in your belief, their doubt can slowly become your doubt. That's why protecting your vision is not about secrecy for ego. It's about safeguarding belief. Belief is the foundation of achievement. If belief cracks, performance weakens. If belief strengthens, action multiplies. And in the early stages of a goal, your belief is still under construction. You don't plant a seed and then dig it up every day to show your neighbors. You plant it. You water it. You nourish it. You give it time to take root beneath the surface where nobody can see it. The roots grow in silence before the tree grows in public. The same is true for your goals. In the beginning, most of the growth happens internally. Your habits are changing. Your mindset is shifting. Your standards are rising. These changes are invisible, but they are critical. And if you spend more time talking about what you're going to do than actually doing it, you rob the roots of their strength. There is also something else that happens when you announce your plans too early. You receive applause for intention instead of achievement. Someone says, "That's amazing." You're writing a book and you feel accomplished. But the book isn't written. The business isn't built. The transformation hasn't occurred. Yet your brain has already received a reward. That reward can trick you into thinking progress has been made. And when the mind feels rewarded, urgency decreases. Protecting your vision means you delay the applause until it is earned. You postpone the recognition until the result exists. You discipline yourself to enjoy the work instead of the announcement. Now, I'm not suggesting isolation from everyone. There is wisdom in seeking counsel from the right people. A mentor can strengthen your belief. A trusted partner can sharpen your strategy. Accountability can accelerate growth. But you must be selective. Not everyone deserves access to your dreams. Some people operate from fear, some from jealousy, some from limitation. And they may not intend to harm you, but they will project their worldview onto your ambition. If their world is small, they will try to shrink your dream to fit inside it. That's why maturity is learning who to share with and when to share. Early on, your vision requires protection more than validation. There may come a season in your life where you speak less and work more. A season where you decline to explain yourself. A season where you let people misunderstand you temporarily while you build something extraordinary privately. That season is not weakness. It is wisdom. When the caterpillar enters the cocoon, it does not seek commentary. Transformation happens in privacy. And when it emerges, it doesn't need to explain what happened. The change is obvious. You don't need to convince anyone of your future. You need to commit to it. Another reason to guard your vision is that not all doubt is external. Sometimes when someone questions your goal, it triggers your own hidden insecurities. Maybe you were already unsure. Maybe you already feared you might fail. Their words simply amplify what was quietly whispering inside you. If you had kept the vision protected while you strengthened your confidence through action, that doubt would have been weaker. Confidence is built through kept promises to yourself. When you say you're going to wake up early and you do it, confidence grows. When you say you're going to practice daily and you follow through, belief deepens. These small private victories fortify your vision. But if you're constantly explaining your plans instead of executing them, you're building reputation instead of results. And reputation without results is fragile. Let your results introduce your vision to the world. There's also a strategic advantage to silence. When people don't know your moves, they cannot predict them. When they cannot predict them, they cannot discourage them. When they cannot discourage them, you maintain momentum. Momentum is powerful. Once you begin moving forward consistently, you want as little resistance as possible. Protecting your vision reduces unnecessary resistance. Understand this clearly. You do not owe the world an explanation of your ambition. You owe yourself discipline. You owe yourself focus. You owe yourself the chance to grow without the weight of unnecessary opinions. As your vision matures, as your results begin to show, as your confidence becomes unshakable, then you can speak from strength. At that stage, criticism won't wound you. Doubt won't derail you. Because you won't be operating on hope anymore. You'll be operating on evidence. Until then, guard the flame. Feed it daily with action. Strengthen it with consistency. Protect it with silence. And one day, what started as a fragile idea will become an undeniable reality. At that point, you won't need to tell anyone what you're going to do. They'll be looking at what you've done. If you truly want to understand the power of success, learn this principle: build in silence, reveal through results. There is something incredibly powerful about quiet consistency, not loud ambition, not dramatic announcements, not constant updates about what you're planning to do, but steady, disciplined effort repeated day after day, long before anyone sees the outcome. Most people want to be seen building. They want recognition while they're struggling. They want applause for the attempt. But success doesn't grow well under the spotlight in its early stages. It grows in the dark. It grows in private. It grows when no one is watching. Think about the foundation of a building. Before the structure rises into the skyline, crews spend weeks, sometimes months, digging, pouring, measuring, reinforcing. Nobody drives by and applauds a foundation. It's not impressive to look at. It's not glamorous. But if the foundation is weak, the building won't stand. Your habits are your foundation. Your discipline is your foundation. Your private routine is your foundation. And foundations are built quietly. When you decide to improve your life, the real transformation happens behind closed doors. It happens when you wake up earlier than usual. It happens when you choose to read instead of scroll. It happens when you practice your craft long after you feel tired. It happens when you save money instead of spending it. None of these moments attract attention. But they build strength, and strength accumulated in silence becomes confidence in public. There's a reason why truly successful people often seem to appear out of nowhere. One day people say, "Where did this person come from?" What they don't see are the years of quiet preparation, the nights of study, the failures adjusted privately, the skills sharpened without announcement. Results have a voice, and when they speak, they don't need assistance. If you spend your time announcing every step, you divide your focus. Instead of concentrating fully on improvement, part of your attention goes toward managing perception. You begin to care about how things look instead of how they are, and appearance can never replace substance. Substance is built through repetition. It's built through the willingness to do the same disciplined actions whether you feel inspired or not. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs act when they feel motivated. Professionals act because it's time to act. Quiet consistency is powerful because it compounds. A single day of discipline won't change your life, but one disciplined day repeated 365 times will create a completely different person. And most of that repetition will go unnoticed by the world. But here's the beautiful part: when the results finally surface, they carry weight. You don't need to argue about your value when your value is visible. You don't need to convince anyone of your growth when your growth is measurable. You don't need to defend your ambition when your achievements demonstrate it. Let your results introduce you. There is also protection in silence. When you build quietly, you reduce outside interference. Fewer opinions, fewer doubts, fewer distractions. You move at your own pace. You refine your mistakes privately. You adjust your strategy without public pressure. Silence gives you space to fail safely, and failure, handled correctly, is one of the greatest teachers. But it teaches best when your ego isn't on display, when you're not trying to protect an image, when you're simply focused on improvement. Another advantage of building in silence is emotional stability. When you don't tie your journey to public attention, you don't ride the emotional roller coaster of praise and criticism. You don't become addicted to likes, comments, or compliments. Your satisfaction comes from progress, not popularity. That kind of stability is powerful, because when storms come, and you won't collapse. You'll be anchored by the discipline you built privately. The seed does not sprout the same day it is planted. It remains underground for a season. During that season, nothing seems to be happening. But beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Stability is being established. If you dig it up too early to show people progress, you interrupt the process. Your goals are no different. Give them time underground. Water them with action. Protect them with patience. And trust that when they break through the surface, the growth will be undeniable. It's also important to understand that when you reveal through results, your influence multiplies. Words can inspire, yes, but results command respect. When people see what you've accomplished, they listen differently. They ask better questions. They value your advice more, because now your message carries proof. There's a maturity that comes when you no longer feel the need to announce your grind. You realize that the work itself is enough. The progress itself is satisfying. The growth itself is rewarding. And then one day, quietly, the results arrive. Your health improves. Your income increases. Your skills sharpen. Your confidence expands. And people begin to notice. They may ask, "How did you do it?" And you can smile, knowing it wasn't one dramatic moment. It was hundreds of quiet days. It was consistent effort. It was choosing discipline over display. Build in silence so you can reveal with strength. Let others seek attention. You seek advancement. Let others broadcast intentions. You produce outcomes. Let others chase recognition. You chase mastery. Because when mastery shows up, recognition follows automatically. In the end, the loudest statement you can make is not what you say. It's what you achieve. So work quietly. Improve daily, stay patient, and when the results finally speak, they will say far more than you ever could. One of the greatest shifts you can make in your life is this: stop seeking external approval and start building internal standards. If your motivation depends on applause, you will live at the mercy of other people's moods. Some days they will cheer for you. Some days they will ignore you. Some days they will criticize you. And if your drive rises and falls with their reactions, your progress will always be unstable. External validation is unpredictable. Internal validation is powerful. When you seek approval from the outside world, you hand over control of your confidence. You begin to measure your worth by compliments. You measure your progress by attention. You measure your value by recognition. And the problem with that is simple. Recognition does not always arrive on schedule. There will be seasons in your life when you are working harder than ever and nobody notices. There will be periods where you are improving quietly, sacrificing privately, stretching beyond your comfort zone, and the world remains silent. If you require applause to continue, you may quit in those silent seasons. But if your standard is internal, you will continue regardless. You see, the real question is not, are they impressed? The real question is, am I improving? Not, are they clapping? But am I growing? Not, do they approve? But did I keep my promise to myself? Self-respect is built in private. Every time you follow through on a commitment, even a small one, you strengthen your identity. When you say, I will wake up early, and you do it, something powerful happens. When you say, I will study for an hour, and you complete it, you build trust with yourself. And trust in yourself is more valuable than praise from strangers. External approval is addictive. It feels good to be recognized. It feels good to be admired. But like any addiction, the dose must increase. Yesterday's praise won't satisfy you tomorrow. You'll need more attention, more acknowledgement, more reassurance. That's a dangerous cycle. Because when the applause fades, and it always does, you may feel empty. But internal standards do not fade. They grow stronger the more you practice them. When your motivation comes from within, you don't need an audience. You don't need validation. You don't need constant reassurance that you're on the right path. You know you are on the right path because your actions align with your values. That alignment creates peace. It also creates power. There is a certain strength in being able to work hard without telling anyone, in being disciplined without announcing it, in improving without advertising it. That strength comes from knowing you are building something meaningful, whether anyone notices or not. When you rely on external approval, you also become vulnerable to criticism. One negative comment can outweigh 10 positive ones. One doubtful voice can disrupt your confidence. And if you're constantly looking outward for affirmation, you'll also absorb outward negativity. But when your validation is internal, criticism becomes information instead of injury. You evaluate it calmly. You accept what's useful. You discard what's not. And you keep moving. Because your identity is not tied to opinions. It is tied to standards. Now, let me tell you something important. Setting internal standards requires honesty. It requires you to look at yourself and decide who you want to become. It requires discipline to say, this is the level I will operate at. Whether anyone sees it or not, that's maturity. Anyone can perform when the spotlight is on. Character is revealed when nobody is watching. If you only work hard when someone is observing, that's performance. But if you work hard because it's who you are, that's identity. And identity is far more stable than performance. The goal is to become the kind of person who keeps promises, especially to yourself. The kind of person who does the work whether it's exciting or boring. The kind of person who chooses growth over comfort repeatedly. That kind of person doesn't need applause. They are driven by progress. When you develop internal validation, something remarkable happens. You become less reactive and more focused. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's timeline. You stop seeking approval for every decision. You begin to ask better questions. Did I give my best today? Did I move closer to my goal? Did I honor my standards? Those questions are powerful because they shift responsibility back to you. And responsibility is where real freedom lies. When you accept that your growth is your responsibility, not the audience's. You reclaim control. You no longer wait for encouragement to begin. You no longer slow down because recognition hasn't arrived. You continue because your standard demands it. And here's the interesting part. When you stop chasing approval, you often earn more respect. Why? Because confidence is attractive. Discipline is noticeable. Consistency stands out. When people see that you are steady regardless of attention, they begin to admire your strength. But by that point, you no longer depend on their admiration. You've built something stronger, self-confidence rooted in action. Remember this: applause is temporary. Character is permanent. Recognition is external. Standards are internal. Praise can disappear overnight. Discipline compounds for a lifetime. So make a decision to shift your focus inward. Raise your personal standards. Decide what excellence means for you. Hold yourself accountable. Measure your success by your growth, not by the noise around you. And when you live that way, you become unstoppable. because no one can take away your standards. No one can control your discipline. No one can silence your internal drive. When approval is no longer your fuel, progress becomes your habit. And a person who is fueled by progress doesn't need to tell the world what they're doing. The results will speak. But more importantly, they'll know, within themselves, that they earned it.